In our last lives, my sister Alice and I got some rewards from the system. She rushed for the 7 million, while I landed with a college entrance exam score of 700. A few years in, she squandered all her money and got buried in debt. Meanwhile, I graduated from Cambridge with a 6-figure salary. After a couple of failed attempts to get money, Alice pushed me off a rooftop, and we both got reborn back to before the entrance exam. This time, she was quick to snatch the 700 points, got into Cambridge, and even took my boyfriend who had connections. "Sorry, sister," she sneered, "your life is mine now." I just laughed. You know, even if a pig gets reborn in Rome, it's still a pig. Later on, I used my 7 million to get into Cambridge as the top student in the province. Alice and I went back to before the entrance exam. The cold prompt in my ear was exactly the same as last time: "Congratulations on completing the system task. Please select your reward." Option 1, college entrance exam score of 700. Option 2, a deposit of 7 million. I struggled to look away and saw Alice looking dumbstruck across from me. Mumbling in shock, "System reward. 700 points." She quickly pulled herself together and shouted, "I choose 700 points. With a cold smile, she said, "With degrees from Cambridge and Peking University, surely I won't have trouble earning 7 million this time." Ding. The task reward has been credited, 700 points on the entrance exam. And I got the cash reward. A full $7 million. Alice looked at me smugly. "Sister, this diploma is worth more than your 7 million, for sure." I didn't say anything. Just watched that proud face. I knew she was reborn, too. In our past lives, when we both received the system reward, she chose the 7 million first. What's the use of 700 points? Even if you get into a top school, you end up working for me, anyway. In her remaining high school days, she had a lot of money but didn't want to study. She skipped class, wore makeup, and threw money around in bars. In her words, "I've achieved financial freedom, what's the point in studying?" Later, she bombed the entrance exam. After traveling abroad, she lived a reckless life. In just a few short years, she blew through the 7 million. She lacked any real skills and couldn't satisfy her endless desires, so she started secretly taking out loans. Debt piled up with interest until she was drowning in it. With no way out, she turned her eyes to me and my 7-figure salary. After several failed money-grabbing attempts, she pushed me off the rooftop in resentment. "Why do you get to soar with your 700 points while I'm stuck in debt? That score was supposed to be mine, you stole my life." So this time she chose the 700 points with no hesitation. That night, I heard her muffled laugh. "Sorry, sister, your life is mine now." I pretended to sleep soundly. But inside, I couldn't stop chuckling. The system gave her a score of 700 but not the ability that comes with it. Does she really think a pig, even if reborn in Rome, isn't still a pig deep down? With half a year until the entrance exam, I used my foundation from my past life and seized every chance to study hard. Meanwhile, Alice was content not trying, knowing she'd score 700. Whenever small test results came out, she dismissed them with a scoff. "These scores don't mean anything, and I'll hit 700 on the entrance exam." She ridiculed my efforts even more. "Stop wasting your energy. Getting into a specialized college isn't too bad for you." She always believed my 700 in the past life was thanks to the system, but in reality, I never relied on that mystical system. In our past lives, every moment she indulged in pleasure, I was working my tail off. The reward in the past life even glitched. I initially estimated I'd score around 720 points. And because of the system reward, my final entrance exam score was a flat 700. Living a second life. This time, my goal was to be the top in the province. Finally, the entrance exams came. I was also quite curious. What score could I achieve without the system reward glitch? After the exams, Alice was telling everyone she estimated she'd score 700. At first, no one believed it. Until they matched the answers. "Oh my god, Alice, you really might score 700 this time. Were you pretending to be weak just to surprise us all? Pretty and smart, I can only imagine how proud your parents must be." Alice smiled politely. "Scores don't mean everything. Even if Ruby goes to a specialized school, she's still my sister." "Ruby," someone chimed in immediately, "with her usual scores, she'll be lucky to get into any college." Amid the flattery and praise was Mark. My boyfriend. A good-looking, first-rate son of officials. At that moment, he He looked at Alice with a gentle gaze, saying, "Honestly, you're better than your sister. Let's hope we both get into Cambridge." Alice looked past him straight at me. Her eyes were smug. "All right then." That evening, Alice stopped me at the door. "Sister, I think your boyfriend likes me more. He just messaged to confess." "Is that so?" I replied nonchalantly. "Then he's yours. Such an outstanding boyfriend, I won't need to fight you for him. After all, Mark said he thinks I'm more perfect and likes me more." I chuckled. Did she really think Mark was some high-quality second-generation rich guy? At his core, he's a twisted psycho. In my past life, I found out early and broke up with him. But another girl wasn't so lucky. That girl fell off a building on her birthday. The culprit was her boyfriend at the time. Mark. Too bad Alice was too busy living it up to notice these things in her past life. If she wanted that psycho as her boyfriend, then fine by me. When the entrance exam scores came out, our parents were all around Alice. My mom asked nervously, "Alice, are you sure you'll score 700? Of course, Alice was cool as a cucumber, sipping her tea. "I'll definitely score 700, don't worry." A few minutes later, Alice logged into the system, and my mom's screams were ear-piercing. "Really, 700 points? Our baby girl is amazing, so impressive." Dad was smiling from ear to ear. I knew my precious daughter could do it. Alice suddenly turned to me. "Sister, how many did you score?" The room went silent at the mention of me. Mom shot me a look. "Her? If she even passes, I'll thank the heavens. All that tuition money went down the drain. What a waste." Enough. Dad gave a weary sigh. "What's the point of saying this? Either way, she's old enough. If she passes, get a student loan and study. If not, go work and help out." In the midst of ridiculing remarks, Alice looked at me with an innocent face. "Sis, don't be upset. Life's not all about the college entrance exam. In a couple of days, Mom will find you someone to meet for marriage. Settling down early isn't such a bad idea." Mom tousled Alice's hair. "Alice is right," she said. "Enough about that." Mom went off to call relatives with the good news. "Honey, check out the best hotels in town. See if they have space for a celebration." Dad nodded and started looking up hotel numbers. Alice headed out for her date with Mark. Left alone in the room, I went back to checking my scores online. Ruby. Status, scores unavailable. As expected. So, I waited. Evening came. While my parents were busy cooking to celebrate Alice's success, there was a knock at the door. Journalists stood outside. "Is this Ruby's home?" one asked. Dad frowned. "Yes, did she get into some sort of trouble?" "No, no trouble," replied the reporter with a grin. "We just want to interview the top scorer of the state." "The top scorer?" Dad froze, but then said, "You must mean Alice, right?" He called out loud, "Alice, come here. Someone wants to interview you." Mom rushed over with Alice. "You're the top scorer. You've made us so proud." Unlike your sister, I didn't even know how to answer when relatives asked me about her scores. Alice tried not to look too smug. "I didn't expect it either," she began, but was interrupted. "Hold on," a journalist said, "isn't this Ruby's house? This year's top science scorer isn't Alice, it's someone named Ruby." My parents looked at each other, confused. "Ruby? You must be mistaken," Mom said as she pulled Alice over. "Our Alice scored 700. Ruby's lucky if she hits 400. If someone's the top scorer, it must be Alice." 700? The journalist paused, then added, "She's excellent too, but we're here for Ruby. She scored 738. "Impossible!" Alice exclaimed. "Her, over 700? You've got it wrong." The reporter cut her off, turning to me. "Are you Ruby?"
"Yeah."
"That's me," I replied. Reporters surrounded me while Alice was pushed back. Her gaze was just like it was in the past. Only this time, I was the one in the spotlight, handling everything with grace and enjoying all the attention. Even my parents were being interviewed. "What's your secret to raising a daughter who's the top scorer?" the reporters asked. Dad couldn't hide his pride. "Honestly, no special nudges, she's just smart and hardworking." Mom patted my hand affectionately. She's great at everything, just a bit too driven, takes after me. Alice was losing it in the corner with jealousy. Eventually, a reporter even approached her. "Are you here to interview me?" she asked eagerly, fixing her hair. "Yes, we are," they replied. "With a high-achieving sister, do you feel pressure?" Alice forced a smile, practically gritting her teeth. "Yes, she's always been my role model." Once the reporter left, my parents couldn't stop fussing over me. "Ruby, why didn't you tell us you're the state's top scorer?" "Exactly, it's such good news." "Why keep it to yourself? What would you like to eat, Ruby?" "Mom will make it for you." "Mom." Alice couldn't hold back. "I saw that sis has 7 million in her bank." "Have you done something reckless, Ruby? 7 million?" Mom shrieked. "Ruby, where did you get that kind of money?" I quietly turned to Alice. "Sly little thing, always going for the straightforward jab." "Investments," I said nonchalantly, naming a couple of recent projects. Mom and Dad looked puzzled. They couldn't tell if it was real or not. They were just thrilled. "Ruby, you should have mentioned making all this money. We're strapped for cash. How about fronting us a little?" I smiled. "Sure thing, but it's all tied up right now. Once it's freed up, I'll give you and Dad each 1 million. Mom and Dad were beaming. "Oh Ruby, you're our treasured daughter." "Dad." "Mom." Alice stomped her feet. "Can't you see she's lying to you? If the money's really there, just take the card and withdraw it." "Enough." Dad cut in, scanning my expression. "Your sister's been balancing study and earning. Cut her some slack. No more of this. Let's eat out tonight and celebrate." "I'm not going." Alice fumed. "Fine, then stay here," Dad snapped. "We're celebrating anyway." The door slammed shut, drowning out Alice's frustrated cries inside. 2 days later. Alice didn't come home overnight, claiming to be at her friend Lily's. She lied. Lily's on vacation with her family in Hawaii. At 11 p.m. Alice's text popped up on my feed, with my moon. The pic showed her hand held tightly by another, over white sheets. Soon after, a message from Mark appeared. "Ruby, we should break up." I smirked. Finally, he initiated it himself. Under the gloomy lamp, I typed back, "Why, Mark, you know how much I like you. I'm not agreeing to this breakup. Did you find someone else?" Message after message flew out, then finally a notification showed that he blocked me. Satisfied, I put the phone down. Someone like Mark, a creep, would only be made more curious by a clean break. But if he thinks I can't let go, he'll cut ties. The next day, Alice returned, looking refreshed. "Sis," she bragged, leaving a kiss mark visible on her neck, "Mark is mine now. Stop clinging to him, save yourself some face. He doesn't love you anymore, not even if you beg." Alice giggled, "What's 7 million when you can marry into Mark's family? That's way beyond millions. Guess you're just not that lucky, sis." I simply watched Alice's smug face, feeling a pang of pity. Being the girlfriend of a serial killer didn't feel lucky to me. Our parents threw a graduation party for us. "Mom," Alice looked around, clearly upset. "Wasn't this supposed to be a joint celebration with Ruby? The screen even says it's for the top scorer banquet. And my score is lower than my sister's. Just because of a few points, you're playing favorites?" "Listen, sweetie," my mom gently coaxed her. "Your dad has this thing about saving face. He insisted on this top scorer banquet, and by the time I found out, it was too late to change. Don't be mad. Once you get your acceptance letter, how about I give you some money for a trip?" As we spoke, a bunch of relatives came over to congratulate Mom. "Wow, raising 2 high achievers must feel amazing." "Exactly, Ruby did so well, she was even first in the state." "That's impressive." "I always thought Ruby was smart, just had that feeling she wouldn't mess up." Alice scoffed, "You guys are so old-fashioned. Nowadays, isn't it all about money? Getting first in the state just means you'll be working for others in the future." Then she turned to my parents. "Mom, I have a surprise for you all later." Our relatives glanced at each other, confused. My mom was also puzzled. Just as she was speaking, new guests arrived at the banquet hall. Alice quickly raised her hand and shouted, "Mark, over here." I overheard some relatives whispering, "Mark? Isn't he the son of the bureau chief?
Yeah,
That's him. The bureau chief's miracle child, pampered to the core. I heard he's having his own graduation party soon. How does Alice know Mark? They look more than just classmates to me. Alice boldly took Mark's arm and smiled at everyone. Let me introduce you. This is my boyfriend, Mark. The room was silent for a moment before people rushed up. So, this is Mark? I had lunch with your dad before. How's he doing these days? Mark replied with a smile, he's doing well. Mom initially looked angry at Alice for bringing a boyfriend, but when she heard who Mark was, her anger turned into smiles. Mark, right? Come on, sit at the head table. When Alice goes on stage, sit with her. Thank you, Auntie. Mark greeted everyone briefly, then stopped to look at me. I heard you got first in the state, he said warmly, emotionless. Congrats, Ruby. My heart tightened, worried he'd come back to me. I hurried to him when no one was around and asked quietly, so, can we patch things up, Mark? As expected. Mark's eyes lost their warmth instantly. He sneered, no way. I'm with Alice now. Ruby, just give up already. Stop dreaming. After saying that, he walked past me to Alice. I watched his back and popped a piece of candy in my mouth. Over the summer, Alice was busy dating Mark. I was busy investing and starting a business. With my years of previous life work experience and the advantage of being reborn, I made a tidy profit in just 2 months. Before starting college, I became a wealthy woman. I initially planned to transfer money to my parents, but before doing it, I overheard my mom and Alice talking on the balcony. Silly girl, of course, I love Alice the most. Your sister's holding on to a lot of money and won't spend it. We'll coax her to help us buy you a new phone and laptop, okay? Alice sobbed into my mom's embrace, complaining of injustice. In the dimly lit balcony, my mom soothed her gently, you've been smarter than your sister since you were little. Those few points mean nothing, in the future, it'll be our Alice with more success. Alice whined, Mom, ask Ruby for more money, I want to travel abroad. Okay. My mom patted her hair lovingly, little greedy girl. Go back to sleep, or your sister might hear us. I listened quietly. The last bit of hope inside me completely vanished. In my past life, I scored 700 points, and my parents bragged about me, but still spoiled my sister. I'm a year older than Alice, but my parents favored her so much that they made me start school a year late just to take care of her. So, since primary school, I've always been in the same grade and class as Alice. All these years, I was the sensible, invisible background figure in the family. Even when Alice dragged me off the roof in my previous life, I only heard my parents screaming her name. Before they came out, I quietly returned to my room. The next day, my mom clutched my hand, crying, Ruby, your dad's company isn't doing well, and we spent a lot on your and Alice's education. We're out of money. Could you lend us a few $100,000? I held her hand, don't worry, Mom. This investment will pay back in 2 months, then I'll send money over. You're my parents, my closest people. I'd never hold back from helping our family. Mom skeptically agreed. I sighed, if Alice would just sell the fancy gifts Mark got her, it'd be better. She's so young, flaunting those brands. It's not good for her. Little did they know, Alice overheard. That night, I heard arguing from her room, Mom, are you crazy? Why sell my bags? Weren't we going to ask Ruby for money? If Mark finds out I sold his gifts, he'll be mad. The dispute went on. Alice slammed the door and stormed out, not coming back all night. Summer ended quickly. When school started, I had to give a speech as the new student representative. Alice was in the front row. On stage, she glared at me. Her eyes were full of jealousy, resentment, and unwillingness. But then, her expression shifted to a smile. I had a bad feeling. Sure enough, as I walked up, I felt my pant legs tear dramatically. There was a loud rip, and whispers broke out in the crowd. Then I heard Alice raise her voice.
Oh no.
Her pants tore. Some people laughed. There were thousands of eyes on me. Some looked amused, others frowned. As my younger self, at 18, I'd be embarrassed and at a loss. But on stage, my mind felt over 30. After a moment of shock, I covered with my shirt and proceeded on stage. Someone handed me a jacket, which I tied around my waist. I carried on with the speech. My words were passionate, resonating with everyone. The crowd of students, all top-notch, soon forgot about the minor mishap. Alice's petty trick felt like high school antics from the past. She didn't anticipate the audience would focus on the speech. As I finished the last lines, applause thundered through the room. I bowed and caught Alice's resentful gaze as I stepped down. I knew. The pants thing was her handiwork. I didn't want to waste time getting wrapped up with her. So, later on, the night before we each moved into our dorms, I ordered a ton of seafood. Then added a touch of laxatives. Posted it all on social media. My mom called me real quick, "Ruby, you don't like seafood, do you? Instead of trying and tossing it, why not give it to your sister? She loves seafood. When you come home, I'll make you your favorite ribs, okay?" I bit my lip, feeling a little wronged. "All right," I said. Then I watched Alice smugly take the takeout. The next day, my roommate came back to the dorm excitedly. "Did you hear? A girl from the next apartment had an accident running the 800 meters. She pooped herself." I feigned surprise. "At the track?"
Yeah.
she said, shaking her head. She yelled about her stomach and ran towards the bathroom, but, couldn't hold it. I was right there, couldn't eat my lunch after that. All the dorm mates chatted about it. "That's so embarrassing," one said. "If it were me, I wouldn't show my face for the next 4 years." Not long after, I got a call from Alice. "Ruby, you did this on purpose, didn't you?" "Yup," I replied nonchalantly, flipping through a book. "You gave me a gift at the freshman event, I just thought I'd return the favor." "Alice, focus on your relationship and stop bothering me. You won't win." Alice suddenly laughed. "Ruby, is all this because you can't get over Mark?" she taunted. "Too bad, no matter how hard you try, Mark's not coming back to you. He finds you disgusting now. He hates girls who cling." It seemed finding that out cheered her up. "So you're the top student. What of it? We're still at the same school, aren't we? What's 7 million compared to Mark's dad being a director? I'll marry Mark eventually, and his family will take care of everything when I graduate. You'll probably run out of money by then." Her smugness filled my ears, just her narrow delusions. I shook my head and hung up. No wonder she's so happy. Sometimes before bed, I scroll through social media. Most posts I see are from Alice. "Mark took me for amazing sushi today. Love you." Or, "Got an LV from my baby. Who else wants one?" Today, feeling sick with a cold, I went to bed early but saw Alice's new post, "Night hike to Ghost Laughing Stone with Mark." The picture showed her and Mark smiling against the night. Mark's gaze was unsettling, though. It made my skin crawl. When I woke up, there was another update from Alice, 2 pictures this time. The first showed her with a swollen ankle. The second had Mark applying medicine to it. "Almost fell off the mountain, but luckily my boyfriend is caring," the caption read. A familiar scene popped into my mind. In my past life, I heard of a similar post from Mark's ex. Just like that, Mark had taken her hiking, she nearly fell, but he grabbed her, leaving her with just a sprained ankle. Actually, Mark later admitted he planned on doing something that night but backed off because people were around. Seems like after Alice took Mark, she inherited the fate meant for that other girl. Funny how things work out. But I didn't plan to tell her. She wouldn't believe me anyway, would probably think I'm just jealous. Besides, no amount of family ties can make up for her trying to harm me. So, I decided to respect her fate. Back in my freshman year, I started a small business with some upperclassmen. I was the only one who knew just how successful they'd become in the business world. I had initial capital, past experiences, and insider information. They had talent and vision. Our business grew rapidly. In less than a year, my investment more than doubled, and my studies never suffered. Meanwhile, Alice started attending classes earnestly but fell behind fast, unable to keep up with basic knowledge. Without any external support, her college entry level was probably around a C average. Add 2 lifetimes of neglect to that, and soon, all she cared about was Mark. Schoolwork didn't matter anymore. Recently, a friend from high school sent me a link. Ruby, isn't this your sister streaming? I clicked, confused. There Alice was, scantily clad, making all sorts of provocative moves. Even though it only showed half her face, it was obviously her. I watched the video feeling uneasy, recalling rumors about Mark's exes I'd heard before. Words from the past echoed, loyalty test. Mark, perverse as he was, pressured girlfriends into making these videos to prove loyalty, making them perform questionable acts online. The scale always pushed further, testing their limits until complete submission. In the past, I dismissed such stories as gossip. But now, it seemed they were true. And Alice wasn't new to this kind of recording. She dressed to please Mark, even got scolded for inappropriate attire in class. I felt disappointed looking through her indecent videos. This Alice, reborn, but no different from the one filled with desires. Without that 7 million and despite a degree, it's uncertain if she'd even graduate. Mark was her only route to fulfilling wants, losing herself entirely, all she craved was in her showy posts. When finals approached, my mom called unexpectedly, Ruby, your finals are soon.
Yeah.
I responded, working on some problems. What's up? Could you take the exam for your sister? What? I froze, the pen still in my hand. Mom laughed awkwardly, your sister said this semester's tough, if she fails, she might not pass the retakes. But Ruby, you're so smart, you'd ace any retake. No. I rejected. If they catch me, I could get expelled. They won't. Mom insisted. You both look so alike. Just change your hairstyle, the proctors won't notice. You should help your sister. I was used to their favoritism, but it didn't upset me now, just felt ironically amusing, impossible. Ruby, you should, I hung up. Mom called again repeatedly. I ignored them until she texted, I'm so heartbroken. Other sisters always care for each other, why are you so cold? Are you a good sister? I typed quickly back, how about you be her sister? I'll be her mom. The phone buzzed with voice messages. I didn't listen, just muted her messages and went back to studying. Alice later got someone else to take the test. Results. Got caught. Alice's grades in all subjects were nullified. Specific disciplinary actions would be decided after the exams. That night, Alice came to my dorm. As soon as she saw me, she slapped me. Ruby, you're laughing at me on purpose, aren't you? You're so smart, you could have taken the test for me. Mom called you so many times, and you refused. Now my grades are void. Are you satisfied? I grabbed her wrist. Not bad. If you get expelled, I'd be more satisfied. Alice tried to break free and suddenly pulled out a bottle of water. My heart sank, and I quickly called for my roommate to help stop her. Thankfully, my roommate acted fast and snatched the bottle when I held Alice down. What's this? She frowned. Could it be acid? Ruby, your sister wouldn't go that far, would she? I held down Alice, smiling coldly. What wouldn't she do? Help me call the cops. The police arrived quickly. We were all taken to the station to give statements. After getting back to school, I went straight to the office and turned in those video links of Alice to the school. Alice appeared in more and more videos lately, and people had uncovered her info online. Even her status as a Cambridge student was buzzing in the comments. A Cambridge student? My God, even scholars get wild like this, no wonder everyone fights to get into Cambridge. My understanding of Cambridge just got deeper. The school took it seriously and launched an investigation immediately. Cheating, attempted crime, and posting inappropriate videos online causing public uproar. Alice's academic career was undoubtedly over. Sure enough, the school's decision was swift. Expulsion. And Alice was detained for a month. My parents called me countless times, but I didn't answer. Even if I did, it'd just be them blaming me for calling the police or accusing me of not taking care of my sister. I didn't plan on going back to that house anyway. During the break, I chose to stay in Beijing to study and develop my studio. Alice went back home after being released. However, right before the new year, I got a call, Grandma passed away. How could it be so sudden? I immediately booked a flight home. While packing, my hands felt stiff. I thought of the grandma who was always loud and hid delicious snacks in layers of wax paper just for me. The grandma who, upon learning I was the top in the province, was the only one who cried before celebrating, hugging me and saying I must have worked so hard to achieve it. The grandma. The only one who truly cared about me. How could she just be gone? Aunt said Grandma passed peacefully in her sleep. She didn't suffer. But the night before, she kept murmuring before bed, "It's been so long since I've seen Ruby. How's she doing at school? Is she eating well? Did she lose weight again?" She rambled for a long time. That child is so considerate, always putting herself last. When she comes home for break, I'll make her some ribs. But she never got to see me come home. The memories of my youth. Everyone told me I was the sister, had to take care of my sibling. But that little old lady who barely went to school herself, she'd tell everyone off. She's still a kid, who can she take care of? Was she born a sister? She's Ruby. When I got back home, Grandma was just a cold black and white photo on the wall. I held back tears, bowed 3 times heavily. Then lit 3 incense sticks. At her age of over 90, it was considered a happy passing, so the family hired an opera troupe. The atmosphere was lively. I stared blankly at the scene. Then, a familiar figure appeared in my sight. Alice. She stood in the back, staring at me creepily. Her gaze was the same as when she pushed me off the rooftop in a past life. I coldly looked away. After the funeral, my parents tried to mend our relationship, but I ignored them. I got a room at a hotel instead. At night, there was a knock on the door. "Who is it?" My aunt's voice came. "Ruby, it's me." I felt relieved and opened the door. But when she came in, my parents followed. My aunt didn't know what happened between us and thought I was just throwing a tantrum, so she tried to reason with me. "Ruby, your parents really miss you. They know you're still upset, so they brought your favorite snacks to see you. We're family, there shouldn't be overnight grudges, right?" I frowned, not wanting to embarrass my aunt, so I stayed silent. My parents awkwardly handed over the red bean bread. "Ruby, try it. You used to love this." I glanced at it. "I don't like it. I ate this because Alice didn't like red beans, so that's all I got." Slowly, I said, "I hate red beans. Really hate them." The atmosphere turned tense. Again, there was a knock at the door. My dad, standing by the door, didn't even ask who's outside. He just turned and opened it. Suddenly, someone rushed in. Alice came at me, her eyes bloodshot and haggard, clutching a knife. "Why? Why should you get all the good things? You have money, education, and I only had Mark. Why did he break up with me?" She raised the knife high, looking crazed. "Ruby, it's time to end it all. Given another chance, I'll live better than you." I grabbed her wrist tightly, while my aunt did her best to hold her back. Yet, my parents stood there in shock, not intending to help, just yelling, "Alice, what are you doing? Put down the knife, don't be rash," but Alice couldn't hear anything. It took all my strength to push her away. The door was too far, so I pulled my aunt into the bathroom. Locked the door. I exhaled. "Auntie, call the police." "All right." My aunt, still shaken, dialed the police with trembling hands. "Ruby, your parents are still out there. It's okay, her target is me, she won't hurt them." Alice started banging wildly on the door. Then my parents finally tried to restrain her. "Alice, stop it. You already went to detention, adding more trouble now. Don't stop me." The word of detention only provoked her more. She muttered, "If I die with her again, I can make different choices. This time, I want 7 million. I'll use the money and be the top student myself." My mom was nearly crying. "What choices, Alice? Calm down. Honey, hold her."
Ah.
Then, a piercing scream echoed from outside. My heart dropped. Something seemed to happen. I heard my mom scream, "Honey, are you okay? So much blood." Soon, there was a thud outside the door. Alice was crying too. "Dad, I didn't mean to." But what surprised me was my mom's first reaction, to urge Alice. "Run. What are you still doing here? I'll take your dad to the hospital." They called the police. Without turning back, Alice left immediately. I quickly dialed 911. When I opened the door, I saw Dad lying in a pool of blood, stabbed near his leg. I took a deep breath and crouched down to check his breathing. There was none. My legs felt weak. My mom read the result on my face. She looked disbelieving. How is this possible? Alice only accidentally stabbed his leg, not his heart. How could it be so fast? She didn't know that piercing the major artery in the leg could cause rapid death. She was just holding my dad and crying. Suddenly, something crossed her mind. She picked up the bloody knife from the ground and shoved it towards me, trembling. Ruby, help your sister this once, please? Even my aunt was shocked. Sis, do you know what you're saying? Even if he is your real father, it's murder. Murder means the death penalty. No, it doesn't. My mom cried, walking towards me. Ruby, I'll write an apology note. There won't be a death penalty. Just say you didn't mean it. It's only a few years max. Your sister is still young, and we've spoiled her. She can't handle being in there. What about me? Mom covered her face crying. What do you want me to do? Your sister, she's already been expelled, and Mark broke up with her. If she goes to jail, how will she live when she gets out? But you're different, you're so capable. Even if you go to jail for a few years, you'll do just fine when you get out. I looked at her coldly. In that moment, whatever hope I had left was gone. When Dad's lying like this, all you can think about is saving your precious daughter. Because I'm strong, I deserve to die? The hotel was close to the police station. As we spoke, the police broke in. Dad was already gone by the time the ambulance arrived. Alice's accidental stab hit the major artery, and within half a minute, the blood sprayed out, covering the floor. Alice ran, and her whereabouts were unknown. But my biased mother insisted that I was the one who accidentally stabbed him. Alice had nothing to do with it. Unfortunately, my aunt wouldn't falsely testify, and the fingerprints on the knife belonged only to my mom and Alice. Alice was found quickly. Not because she was caught, and she didn't surrender. It was because the ambulance took her to the hospital. In her extreme panic, she didn't know where to hide or what to do and instinctively went to the one person she thought could save her, Mark. After finding out about her crime, Mark first comforted her gently, promising he'd handle everything. Then, when Alice was completely relaxed, he pushed her out of an 8th-floor window. He leaned on the windowsill, watching her facial expressions change continuously: shock, confusion, fear, regret. Later, Mark confessed, he was trying to make it look like Alice committed suicide out of guilt. He just didn't anticipate that she miraculously survived the fall from the 8th floor. The trees on the 2nd floor cushioned her fall. Alice was taken to the hospital by passers-by, her life saved. But she was left paralyzed from the neck down, entirely immobile. Barely clinging on to life. My mom stayed at the hospital, crying at her bedside every day. When Alice woke up, she kept saying, "Mom, kill me. Kill me, so I can choose again. I don't want to live like this. This time, I'll choose the 7 million, I'll be top of the state exams." She screamed hoarsely, "Kill me." But my mom wouldn't do it, just held her and cried, "Sweetie, I'll take care of you. We'll be okay, we'll be okay." My mom prayed day and night, but no one answered. 3 years passed. Alice still hadn't recovered at all. Every day she lay in bed, with only her eyes able to move. Time wore down my mom's resolve. She no longer hoped her precious daughter would get better. When feeding her, she'd impatiently shove a big spoonful of dry rice in her mouth, often leaving Alice choking. When in a bad mood, she'd mutter, "How do you still have the nerve to live and drag me down? Back then, you might have been better off dead." And she stopped cleaning Alice daily. Because of being bedridden for years, Alice's paralyzed limbs and muscles atrophied, with bed sores covering her body. Once, my aunt visited, and when she returned, she mentioned the condition, unable to hold back. When the blanket was pulled back, the sight of those bed sores was shocking. She said Alice didn't recognize her. Just stared blankly at the ceiling, occasionally opening her mouth, only to hoarsely repeat, "Kill me. I want 7 million. I don't want to choose, I want a do-over. System, save me again." However, the system never saved her. And no one else could either. Over the past few years, my mom tried to reach out to me many times. But she never got to see me, not even once. Without a husband and no income, she struggled with odd jobs and had to come home at night to care for her daughter, who was bedridden. The stress took a heavy toll on her health over the years. She begged family members to persuade me and even tried guilt-tripping me, but I wasn't having any of it. If it were just about the unfairness I faced as a kid, I would have taken on the duty to care for her in her old age. But when she didn't hesitate to tell the police that I was the one who committed the murder, I realized any mother-daughter bond was completely severed. I won't go soft on this. On my 25th birthday, I got a call late at night from an unknown number. The voice was familiar but sounded old and worn. "Ruby," she said shakily, "Mom misses you so much. Please don't hang up, okay? Happy birthday. It's been 4 years since I saw you. Can't you forgive me?" She choked up, "You're both my children. I love you too, I just showed it the wrong way. Are you done?" I answered flatly. "You must have the wrong number. My mom died 4 years ago." That seemed to hit her hard. She burst into tears on the other end. "Ruby, Mom was really wrong." I hung up straight away. I felt nothing, no emotion at all. Maybe even a bit of relief. How could I forgive her? Forgive her for locking me at home for a year, just so I could start school with my sister? Forgive her for the leftover bread I had to eat, for wearing her hand-me-down clothes? Forgive her for asking me to take exams for her, to take the fall for Alice? Even if I could forgive her, the little Ruby she left behind with all that favoritism never would. By the time I graduated, the studio I had started had turned into a company and was about to go public. My sharp investment skills made quite a reputation for me in the field. The future looked bright. Once, when my mom wasn't home, I went to check on Alice. She was barely recognizable, mumbling random words, "Ruby's choice again." This was probably the only hope in her desperate life. But in reality, she never understood. It wasn't about the choices she made. Her greed, her desires, her malice, one wrong move after another, ensured she would never have a good life. No matter how many times she tried again, it would always be the same. The problem wasn't the choice, it was her nature. Inside the house, the air was stuffy and disgusting. I left quickly. Outside, the sunshine was perfect, and the breeze was gentle. I checked my phone for the date, did some quick calculations, and decided on my next big investment, a soon-to-be-hit mobile game.